Welcome to Shom Machshava on the Daf. We're holding in Chulin Daf Gimel. In the end of the base, Tosfos brings that, as we're going to see later, you cannot eat from a Shechita of a goy. Says Tosfos, the source is because it says v'zovachto mashata zoiveyach ata oichel. Only someone who has the obligation, who belongs to the mitzvah of zvicha of Shechita, so you can eat from his Shechita. That's why a goy is excluded. Says Tosfos, huadin, the same din is on a mumor lehachis. Someone eats tarfus lehachis, so you cannot eat from a shechita because you don't have the word v'zovachta. As the Achronim point out, Rashi, in the beginning of this Amud of Gimel base, Rashi argues, Rashi says the reason you cannot eat from someone who is a mumor lehachis is because you cannot rely on him. You're choishesh, and maybe he's going to do something wrong purposely. But not because it's a Issa d'oraisa to do be'etzim. We just don't know. He may do something wrong. What's the shoyesh hamachlokes between Rashi and Tosfos? So the Achronim were busy with it. And Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman, in the Sefer Kovetz Inyonim, he brings that the Gemara in Gittin tells us that a mumor cannot write Tefillin because he's not part of the Kshira Tefillin. Because his Porak Mu'ulav, he's not interested in doing the mitzvah. So he's not part of Tefillin, so he can't write Tefillin. Says Tosfos, the same thing by Shechita. He's not interested in Shechita, so he doesn't have the mitzvah of Shechita. Says the Rabbi Elchanan, Rashi disagrees, because Rashi holds there is a difference between Tefillin and Shechita. Because a Katan, a child, cannot write Tefillin as well. Why can he write Tefillin? Because he doesn't have the mitzvah of Kshira. So it says Rashi, but by Shechita we know that a Katan could do Shechita. We learned in our Mishnah that as long as someone is looking at him, his Shechita is kosher. So if Shechita has the same din like Tefillin, the same way Tefillin cannot be done by a Katan, so why can Shechita be done by a Katan? So you see that by Shechita you don't see this din. Meaning you see that by Shechita, Chazal or Mekabel, that you don't see the halacha that someone who doesn't belong to the mitzvah of Shechita cannot do Shechita. Shaila is how to understand Tosfos. So Tosfos, how can Tosfos explain why a Katan is kosher for Shechita, but he's not kosher for Kshira? So answers Rabbi Elchanan in the second explanation. He says by a Katan, the Isser of eating tarfus does exist by a Katan. And this is based on the Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Amud base. The Gemara there says that the Isser of having Aveirus is that the Kala is also by a Katan. The Torah had Rachmanos and a Katan, not to punish him. And there, in the Shor Machshava Nadav and Sanhedrin Daf we brought a few explanations in that Gemara. But the Mahalach that some Achronim learn, and that's the Chasam Sofer learns over there, is the Pshat is when a Katan does something, it is something wrong. But the Torah does not punish him for that. But he does have something wrong that he did. And therefore requires kapara when he becomes an adult. And Reb Chaim Kanievsky in the Siach HaSodah Chilek Gimel explained over there, what he heard from the Chazon Ish, that when a Maisa is Maisa Isser, so there's the Indian that Aveira Metamtemes is a lave. When a person does something wrong, there's two things. First of all, he has a din klape shmayo. He's going to get punished with shamayim. And the other thing is that the avera makes a person, he ruins somebody. Just by doing an avera, it causes him to go down from his darga. So the avera affects a katan as well, even though he's not punished for it. So Yemele says Rabbi Elchanan, that's why for a katan, shechita works for him. He's not going to get punished for eating tarfus, but if he eats tarfus, it does affect him in a bad way. So Shechita is effective, and therefore he belongs to Shechita. That's why he can do Shechita. What about Tefillin? Says Rabbi Elchanan, Tefillin is different. Because Tefillin is a mitzvah saseh. Levatel mitzvah saseh, that doesn't cause him any harm. Aveiro is to lav, that makes something wrong by the katan. But now doing a mitzvah saseh, that doesn't affect the katan. And therefore, doing Tefillin doesn't make any effect on him, and therefore he's not shaykh at Tefillin at all, and he can now write Tefillin. And Rabbi Elchanan is alluding to, is what's brought down in the Maharal, in the Gurarya and Pashas Vayikash, the famous Maharal, when the Maharal comes to explain that the Ovos HaKadoshim, did they keep the Torah or did not keep the Torah? Says the Maharal, they only kept the mitzvah saseh, not the mitzvah lo saseh. And he goes on to explain, the mitzvah saseh, every time a person does an asay, he's progressing to another level. So even though he's not obligated to do it, he can still progress to the next level. Mashaykin lois asay, what's a lois asay? When a person doesn't have Eira, he goes down. He loses his madreko. But if a person prevents it, stops himself from doing a loisase, he's not coining anything, he's not losing anything. So he says over there, if someone is not mechuyev, the Torah was not given yet, so there's no harm in a loisase. That's what the Avos HaKadosh did not keep the loisases. But aseh, which is to progress, that they did have shaykhs to. When we speak about a Katan, it's the flip side. By a Katan, Torah is already given to Am Yisrael. So when the griuso, the bad thing that a Avera does, is affecting a Katan. Masheike and progressing to aseh, he doesn't have das, so he's not able to progress through the aseh. So that's what Rechoron says. Legabe Shechita. So if a Katan is eating something which is not shechted, it does affect him in a bad way. So Shechita is beneficial for him. Therefore, he's shayach to Shechita. But the mitzvah of Tefillin, which is to progress, is the mitzvah to go on, he doesn't have mitzvahs. And therefore, by not doing a mitzvah, it doesn't affect him in any way. So therefore, he's not shayach to the mitzvah of Kshiro. Anyone who wants to join or sponsor the Shomachshava Shiurim, please email shomachshava@gmail.com.